Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys say he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, you see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more. Lastly, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now, going to the business part of the podcast, you have Ford to cut 4,000 jobs in Europe as competition heats up and demand, well, dwindles. Now, this comes to us thanks to ABC News, which somehow still in business. Here you can see the iconic Ford logo there, little emblem. And specifically, this is thanks to David McCall, who's a writer over there. Now, they say, quote, Ford to cut 4,000 jobs in Europe as it faces economic headwinds and weak EV sales. Which, again, not financial advice, but yeah, Ford, every last fiscal quarter, they lost about $132,000 per EV sold. AKA, if you're a shareholder, thank God for those big gas trucks and the Ford F-250, 350, 450 Banana Falcon trim levels. Because, yeah, that and the commercial vehicles, that's where they make all their profit. Like most companies that are getting to EVs, they are going to be losing money for quite some time, though eventually they might make a profit. Tesla being the only good example I could think of in terms of making a viable product that does make a profit, though Teslas only have 2 pedals, so I would never have one, obviously. All my fun vehicles have 3 pedals, also known as manual transmission, which all cars should have by default, but I partially digress. Now, diving into the article, they say that, quote, it's going Frankfurt, Germany. Pretty fancy. Ford Motor Company said it will reduce their workforce by 4,000 employees in Europe and the UK by the end of 2027. Now, they also know that a total of 2,900 jobs will be lost in Germany, 800 in Britain, and 300 in European Union countries. They also know that total, Ford has 28,000 employees in Europe and 174,000 worldwide. Now, Ford said, quote, the global auto industries continue to be in a period of significant disruption and as it shifts towards electrified mobility. The transformation is particularly intense in Europe, where automakers are facing significant competitions and economic headwinds while also tackling a misalignment between CO2 regulations and consumer demand for electric vehicles. AKA, the government is forcing us to do shit that consumers don't want. Pardon the French, but yeah, the EU is, I don't want to say they're dictatorial or communist, but they are one giant government exceeding their authority over individuals who have no say in them. So, actually, no, I will say that. Yeah, I was going to say, rumors that, well, a couple of fiscal quarters ago, Porsche was saying they're killing the Cayman, their iconic, more entry-level vehicle to their sports car line. About, what was it, $45,000 cheaper than a 911? Granted, I think the Cayman still starts at $76,000, so still a lot of money, don't get me wrong, but it was of the portfolio of Porsche sports cars, the entry level to get there. And they're saying, right, due to the EU cybersecurity regulations and CO2 and all that kind of stuff, we had to kill it, except for the GT4S trim level, which costs about $165,000. So yeah, basically killing their fun, high-volume sports car, which still has 3 pedals, which I do admire Porsche for. Yet another reason these companies should grow, countries and companies should grow a spine and push back against the EU. Germany used to be, I mean, talk about acquiescing and becoming pathetic. Oh yeah, we're going to dictate what kind of cars you can sell. Yeah. Now, yeah, and people, also the adoption rate of EVs are decreasing. Less and less concern, the take rate is getting lower and lower, and not just the US, but also Europe. They also noted in Europe, automakers must sell enough EVs to meet the new lower limits for fleet averages carbon dioxide emissions in 2025 and face long-term 2025 EU goal of reducing emissions to 0. What's the EU done to actually help anyone? Giant bloated government, more regulations, less freedom. It's almost as if why did they even fight a war back in the day? It's almost as if they all lost. And they also, which would also mean the elimination of most vehicles with internal combustion engines. As crazy as it sounds, Porsche might have to flee the tyranny of Europe and come to America and make Porsche 911s here. Which, as long as it wasn't unionized labor, maybe that might not be a bad thing. Might not feel as authentic as a Stuttgart engineered, manufactured one, but I mean, we are the few vanguards of freedom, and Trump said day one when he's in office, he's going to get rid of those EV mandates and all that crap so we actually drive what we want to drive. Granted, we'll see what happens day one. He's got a lot of things he's going to do. And again, that's just the US. Now, they also note that, quote, EV sales, however, have lagged as consumers are wary of inflation have held back on spending after a major car maker, Germany, dropped the government purchase incentives for EVs. EV sales fell by 5.8% in the first 9 months of the year. Again, this is for Europe, in an overall shrinking market for cars. Car makers are also facing increasing competition from Chinese-made EVs, which every time I hear China or Chinese, I think of Trump's voice. That might be the worst impression all year, but the attempt was nevertheless made. Now, they also note that the company said they would also reduce working time for workers in Cologne, Germany, plant where it makes the Capri and Explorer EVs. Ouch, Ford. Ford sales fell 15.3% in the first 9 months of the year compared to the same fiscal period last year. According to the European Automakers Manufacturer Association, the company's market share shrank from 3% to 3% from 3.5%. Jeez Louise. The Dearborn, Michigan headquartered automaker saw the company-wide net profit fell by 26%. Ouch. To $892 million in the third quarter, as it took $1 billion in accounting charges to write off assets for canceling the three-row electric SUV. The company also cited a higher warranty. Yeah. And I thought it was isolated to the U.S., but I think it's Q2 this year. They spent about $850,000 on warranty work. Ridiculous. And again, Jim Farley, I love the fact that he's an enthusiastic car guy, and he's determined to have a stick shift in V8 as long as possible. So he's a CEO, a great guy in that regard. But man, a three-row EV SUV, yeah, people don't want that. It's one of the detrimental things: the larger the vehicle, heavier it weighs, and as for EVs, they're especially not great. Now, they noted that Ford has established a brand in Europe and will mark its 100th anniversary of doing business in Germany next year. Its main plant in Cologne started production in 1931, and the groundbreaking was attended by Henry Ford himself and then Mayor Konrad Adenauer, later Germany's chancellor. They also know that Ford alone is not alone suffering the headwinds. Volkswagen said it is contemplating closing as many as 3 German plants, according to this chief employee representative. European Automobile Manufacturers Association has called for a speedier review of lower CO2 limits slated for 2026. Ford said the company vice chairman and CFO John Lawler had written a letter to the German government reiterating Ford's commitment to climate goals, but urging action to improve market conditions and ensure the industry's success. Yeah, Lawler says, quote, what we lack in Europe and Germany is an unmistakable clear policy agenda to advance e-mobility, such as public investments in charging infrastructure, meaningful incentives to help consumers make the shift to electric vehicles, improving cost competitiveness for manufacturers, and greater flexibility in meeting those CO2 totalitarian targets. I granted that last part about it being totalitarian. Again, click that subscribe button. It might help in my speaking ineptitudes. My first start of the show had no subscribers, made some family, and I stumbled over my words worse than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs. And he spoke even faster back then. But as I slowly but surely gained more subscribers, my speaking acumen has improved. Some might argue it's just a modicum improvement, but a statistical improvement nevertheless, fueling my theory that the more people that click that button, the better I'll be able to speak, and someday make it through an entire episode speaking perfectly articulately. A pie in the sky goal, some might say, but a wise man once said, if you shoot for the moon, you'll still land among the stars, or something cliche to that effect. So if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, and all this is, basically, Ford's just trying to be nice, but realistically, they're saying, hey, government, please don't kill our business. Because again, the big panda in the room is also China. You can't, with pretty much every electronic component, any electronic device, you can't beat China on price or scale. I mean, look at every Apple product. They only barely now shifted some production to India because of incentive packages by that country, so they can actually have Apple stores there. But pretty much all electronics, with the exception of something that is required for the Department of Defense or some security appliances like a firewall, is pretty much all made in China or South Korea. Very few, if any. I mean, as EVs are basically glorified computers on wheels, there's going to be a whole much more complexities with software and long-term ownership. Good luck trying to find an OLED screen from 10 years ago that you need to replace, or heaven forbid, a battery. And yeah, I'm pretty pessimistic in terms of again, this is why I don't give financial advice on the show. I'm so skeptical about the auto industry in general because there's so much regulation, there's so many unknowns. And again, I believe without massive tariffs and massive government interventions, without those, China will just dominate the whole world auto community. And I don't know, I'm not saying we need to get a tinfoil hat on. I'm not sure if that's what the government's want is for us to, foreign countries want to be dependent on China and they make all the EVs. But yeah, they're pushing crap that citizens don't want. And these companies are struggling. I'm not sure how much longer they're going to struggle. Again, Ford lost $132,000 per EV sold Q3. That's also known as terrible. So it's going to take a while for them to get to the point where they can make a profit. And then Lord really knows long-term viability and actual, reliability of these vehicles. They already don't have a great track record. Will they really pivot to become a successful tech company? I'm pretty skeptical. So hopefully hopefully these individual countries like Germany and the citizens grow a spine. Maybe the auto manufacturers will say, hey, this isn't a viable thing. Why are you pushing this? Why are you forcing consumers to buy this? Some skeptics or conspiracy, wise man once said yesterday's conspiracy is today's fact, but maybe it's because the government wants total control. EVs are very easy to take over with software and just control when they charge, when they drive, how far you can drive, or if you can drive at all. So perhaps the pessimist in me thinks that's a major contributing factor of why these governments are pushing EVs. But yeah, Ford needs some help because I don't know how viable it'll be for them to operate here. And even Volkswagen, I mean, they're also in trouble. Thankfully, they have more profitable things in their portfolio, like Porsche, that are awesome. But let me know, just in general, would you buy a Ford EV? In the United States, the demand for the F-150 Lightning, also known as the EV Lightning or EV truck, well, it crashed by about 50% in October. The demand is so little, they shut down production for, I believe, 8 weeks until Q1 next year. That's how much demand has plummeted in the United States for EVs. So let's just say I'm pretty skeptical. And again, hopefully, maybe these countries develop a modicum of individualism and start to take off the yoke of the EU and push back for once in their lives. Maybe grow a spine. It's a rare thing in politics. But let me know, can the internal combustion engine be saved? What do you think? They're barely in Europe as is. They got 3% market share right now. Let me know what you think the future is for Ford in the EU and in Europe. And do you think will they even be able to make a profit in a couple years as these mandates are forced and thrust upon them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, try to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.